So, but she did ask about it. Oh, meeting is now streaming live.
Yeah, it's still setting up. All right, done. All right. Good evening. It is May 28th, 2020. Welcome to the very first podcast of Legacy Battle. Let me apologize ahead of time. There is a storm in the area. It has knocked out my power and internet once already. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. We'll see how it goes. If it does, we'll get signed back on as soon as we can and try and go live again just to get through this first show. But it wouldn't be a first show without some kinks, right? So we're going to try to come to you live every month, possibly bi-weekly. We'll see how it goes, where our panel is going to discuss and debate and choose who has the better legacy. Should you like this podcast, please give us a thumbs up at the bottom. Leave any positive comments that you might have. If you say, hey, this was the greatest thing I ever seen, then just go ahead and hit that heart emoji and tell us you love us. We'd love to hear that. And then, yeah, you could be that person who says, oh my gosh, why did I just waste all that time in my life? And you want to leave some constructive criticism. It's all good. Just like in the wrestling business, whether you're cheered or booed, as long as they watch and stay tuned. So leave that constructive criticism. But we're happy to have you here watching live on the recorded version available on Facebook group. We'll also be posting the recording version on our personal pages, and it'll be in the group page as well. If you haven't joined the group page, please join it. You'll be able to get updates and announcements for upcoming podcasts. You'll be able to join into and even post your own debates in the comment sections. If we like the comment debate enough, we could use it for a future podcast and possibly even have you join in on it live with us. So, feel free to start debates in the group. So tonight for our first podcast on Legacy Battle, we're taking on the 1992 United States men's basketball Olympic team versus the 2012 team. The Last Dance tearing it up in the ratings, we thought a good place to start would be with something that involved Michael Jordan. Tonight's topic comes from a group member, Ginger Schiff, thank you for that, who 8 years ago brought this up to me, and we had a mini debate back then. So today we're going to dive into it, debate it, choose the victor in our opinions at the end of the show. But before we do, this being the first show, just want to introduce the panel, let you know a little bit about ourselves. I am your host. I'm Michael Adams. I'm going to be a member of the panel as well. A little sports background on me. I'm a two-time Hockey Cranberry Cup winner, two-time most valuable goalie selection, section champ in soccer up in Pennsylvania. I was coach and referee for hockey for 6 years, baseball for 5 years, soccer for 5 years, football coach for 3 years, girls fast pitch softball coach for 1 year, and for 7 years ran a scorebook and was a time operator for basketball. Been part of several championship teams in various levels of sports, even chess, and yes, I consider chess a sport. I am a 3-time fantasy football champion. I only mention that because August will be our fantasy football special. I'm also trying to win my first team golf tournament, but with guys like Kevin and Brett on my team, that's really hard. So, but we'll see. In my spare time, I'm a husband, a father, published writer. You can find some of my stuff on Amazon. Please buy it. Could always use the money. And I'm a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh. So let's meet our other panel members. Let's go to Brian first. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm a devout football fan. I like basketball, hockey, baseball as well. I played some baseball, little league when I was younger. I played some football, up into high school. Played some hockey in my early adulthood. Always been a big sports fan. Going way back. I mean, when I was a kid, I was, played in the backyard. I was, Dan Marino, that was my hero. So yeah, sports has always been a big part of my life. So going forward, I'm really looking forward to these legacy battles. This is something I really like pour myself into, and so yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
All right, great. And we'll go next to just the man I know who's going to give me the biggest debate because he's been disagreeing with everything I've said since the day he was born. That would be my brother, Kevin. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, it's Kevin Adams. I'd say I'm a pretty avid sports fan across the board. I will say though, basketball is one of my least knowledgeable sports. I would say because I never really could play basketball due to my height. But I played multiple sports growing up. I played soccer, hockey, track, wrestling. I've won multiple championships in floor hockey, deck hockey, inline hockey. Took a team to the playoffs my senior year in ice hockey. Got MVP for the year on that team. My hockey career continued into college. I played inline hockey for Penn State. Made a collegiate all-star game my freshman year in Philadelphia. My hockey career didn't stop there because I continued playing adult leagues with actually my brother. Actually, all three of the other panelists were on my team, and we've also won a handful of championships together. All three of the panelists have won a couple titles with me. I as well coached and refed multiple sports: soccer, hockey, inline hockey, t-ball. I coached my first hockey team at age 11. Coached an 8 and 9-year-old team. They went undefeated, won a championship, and half of them were taller than me. I do multiple fantasy sports. I've done fantasy hockey, fantasy football. I've won a couple championships throughout some of the leagues I played in for fantasy football. I've been on DraftKings. I've been on FanDuel. So I have that fantasy side of me down. And I'm looking forward as well, like Brian said, to these debates moving forward and the different topics that we're going to be covering within the next couple of months. I'm glad to be here. It should be fun. If you guys disagree with me, obviously let me know. But keep it clean. All right.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, and last but not least, a former teammate of mine as well, of course, in hockey, Brett. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brett Ebert. Basically, I'll start off with I'm a sports enthusiast like all these guys here. If you can't tell what my number one sport is, just look at the hat there. I played hockey for about 15 years of my life, on and off as an adult and as a kid. Love the sport, will always love it. I've coached football, or I do coach football and basketball at the middle school level for over 5 years. Actually, my second year in, we carried both our football and basketball teams to a district championship, and pretty much almost wanted to quit coaching at that point because I was at the highest peak, but I'm still hanging in there with it. I currently coach developmental athletes, ages around 12 to 18, at Myers Training Systems. It's a place in Oldsmar, Florida. We train these athletes to, be at the peak performance for whatever sport they may play in. So I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now, and I'm going to be continuing. It's a really fun thing to do. I mean, overall, I love to golf, be active in general, love to build things, very big into woodworking, things like that. Just like these guys, I mean, I've been playing fantasy football, fantasy hockey, but really fantasy football for over, 10 years, 12 years. I think won myself a championship there in Kevin's league 2 years back. So, we've all got these very big commons here, and we look forward to debating some of these things that we bring up and looking to have a little fun. But same thing as they all said, if you have anything you want to share with us, any topics, any debates, you disagree with us, again, keep it clean, but please share your disagreements. We're all open for it, and we look forward to it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we are here to talk sports. Every time we come to you, we can talk sports with you in the comments section as well. We just ask that you keep it to sports. We leave politics out of this. We are just here to have some fun and enjoy each other's company. So with that, let's get into it. We're going to start with the 1992 team. I'm going to give you a little introduction on some of it. So with the 92 team, the coaching staff consisted of the head coach, Chuck Daly, and all this information will be what they had done up to that point in their career. So by 92, Chuck Daly had taken the Pistons to 2 titles. Assistant coach PJ Carlissimo, he was responsible for the turnaround at Seton Hall. name I'm always going to have trouble saying, Mike Krzyzewski. Of course, Duke coach. At that point, he had had 2 titles back to back, mainly thanks to Christian Laettner, and Lenny Wilkens, who had won a title with the Supersonics. The team went 8-0 in the Olympics, beating Angola, Croatia, Germany, Brazil, Spain, Puerto Rico, Lithuania, and in the gold medal game, beating Croatia again, 117-85. Their leading scorer was Charles Barkley with an average of 18 points. As for the 2012 team, coaching staff the head coach was Mike Krzyzewski. At that point, he was now a 4-time national champion coach. Jim Boeheim was assistant. Obviously, had Carmelo Anthony, won at Syracuse. Mike D'Antoni was the 2005 Coach of the Year for the Suns. Nate McMillan, who coached the Sonics for 5 years and the Portland Trail Blazers for 7 years. They also went 8-0 in the Olympics, beating France, Tunisia, Nigeria, Lithuania, Argentina, Australia, Argentina again, and in the gold medal game, they beat Spain 107-100. Their leading scorer was Kevin Durant with 19.5 points per game. So we're going to jump into the debate. We're going to go by position, and then we'll take it down to some of the competition that they had played, and by the end of the cast, hopefully figure out who was better. So I'm going to start right off. We're going to go on the forwards, and Kevin Adams, I'm going to come to you and see who you got on the forwards being the better group, whether it's going to be 92 or 12. The 92 forwards were Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone, Chris Mullin, Charles Barkley. 2012 forwards were Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Andre Iguodala, Carmelo Anthony.
You left one out actually.
Yeah, didn't Lattner play power forward?
Christian Laettner was a forward as
Well,
well.
we're going to be doing the rookies as their own section. So, or
Gotcha.
the college people. We're going to have a little Christian Laettner versus Anthony Davis debate after we go position by position. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
and Kevin Love was a forward, however, due to injuries, he had to fill in at center. So, we're going to have him in the center section.
Okay.
Yeah, him and Tyson Chandler.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a shame if Dwight Howard wasn't injured that year, he would have been filling in there at center too. Big body.
Yeah. That would have been the height and the size would have helped them there.
Mm-hmm.
At least the 92 team. But so the forwards, this is a tough one because you have multiple championships, scoring titles on both sides. Barkley, he led the team in 92, shot 71% for field goal percentage, and averaged 8 points per game. He had the size, he could drive to the net. This could go. This one could go either way.
I think most of them probably will go either way. But
yeah,
who do you like?
So I like Charles Barkley on the starting lineup for 92. Carmelo Anthony was a beast back then. If I'm not mistaken, I think he has the most points in the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, for Team USA overall total. But size wise, 92 team destroys them. Physicality wise, driving to the net, they destroy them. But I will say the 2012 team has the quickness. I feel they had better shooting, better dribbling. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant. The three of them, their athleticism is just one that just blows all of them away. As far as when they're playing, though, time frames, it was a different game in 92. 92, you could drive down the middle, you could get hit, you could get pushed, and there would be no fouls. Nowadays, In 2012 and later, I mean, you go down the middle, you get tapped, and it's a foul.
Agreed.
I think the physicality in '92, I don't think the 2012 team could have matched up against it because I think they would have been pushed around.
That's
Back
good. That's good. On that note, Brett, let me ask you, any of those forwards from 2012, have they ever played against another defender like Scottie Pippen?
I'm going to be honest, no, and that's going to be a common theme of mine tonight. I mean, you'll see it is the physicality of the teams from the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, you look at some of the statistics that come out, and I mean, I think the 92 team was holding teams to like 36 or 35% shooting percentage overall. And then you look at the 2012 Olympic team and they were sitting at like 51 to 52%. It was just, and that's kind of the NBA nowadays is, you know, you look at the players again, not that it's not more athletic. It definitely is when it comes to it, but it's just the scoring percentages and everything has gone so high that if you're really trying to compare the forwards, I mean, it all comes down to as well matchups. Because if you say I'm putting Larry Bird on LeBron James, Larry Bird has no shot to cover LeBron James. LeBron James would dance circles around the court. Yeah. But if you're talking, you know, Scottie Pippen against Carmelo Anthony shut down the entire. Carmelo can't even get shots off clean right now. And now you're talking one of the most physical defenders, or Barkley, you know, throw Barkley out there. Nobody's driving down the lane freely on Barkley. He's standing there. He's going to make you take him out to get to the hoop. And I mean, that's how I look at the forwards. Again, it's a tough choice. And you look at matchups and each side has their advantages. Again, you put Chris Mullin against Durant wins it, in my opinion. But again, then you talk about Karl Malone. You got all these different guys that the 92 team could kind of sub in and out. But you got really, in my eyes, the only guys that were dangerous was LeBron James and Kevin Durant from 2012. So that's where I'm at.
Good.
in,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to add in 2012. I mean, you also, I think it just shows that the defense later on wasn't as tough as it was back in '92 with the physicality as well, because almost every one of the forwards, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012, they averaged double-digit points per game. Whereas the 92 team, not every forward averaged double points. And I will say one of the things that I researched was in 2009, 2010, the actual hoop of the basketball hoop was manufactured by a different company and became a breakaway rim, 180 degrees all around, which they showed that following season that it's per game and shooting percentage also went up because it gave more give, which made softer bounces, which made balls go in a little bit more. So I know it's not much. That also helps add to their point totals.
Sounds like baseball juicing the balls, right?
Well, it was for, they did it for safety reasons. And they said it was safe for the players to dunk the ball.
So did Tom Brady. That's all right.
So let me go to Brian. Brian, on the list of forwards on the 2012 and the 92 team, who's your weakest player on each?
Well, I'd say, I mean, excluding Leitner, obviously, for the 92 team, I'd have to say it's probably Bird. I mean, although he was still averaging over 20 points a game, he was still solid. He wasn't where he was in the mid 80s for sure when he was, you know, completely dominant. So I'd say he's probably the weakest guy there, which, you know, to have your weakest guy still be a 20-point scorer and the guy was, you know, still playing at a high level, that's not a bad thing. On the 2012 side, I'd say that'd be Iggy. I mean, Iggy was only averaging 13 points a game. His game really expanded a lot over the years, but at that point in time, he really wasn't as dynamic of a player as he came to be later on. And so yeah, I would say he would be the weakest link there as well. I mean, with the original Dream Team, I'm looking at these. You know, you got 5 guys that averaged over 20 points a game, and I mean, just the interchangeability, like what Brett said. You know, I mean, one guy gets tired or whatever, you're putting another guy in there that's just as high quality. I mean, that was really something the depth of those forwards was just something that was it can't be overstated. Really, the depth of the 2012 team wasn't really there after Carmelo and LeBron and Durant, but then after that, it was, it kind of faded a little bit. So,
I completely agree. I mean, Larry Legend, he had some back problems later in his career, as everybody knows. Like you said, he did still average 20 points, which just was amazing. And his minutes were definitely cut in the Olympics. They were trying to keep him healthy. And Iggy, of course, like you said, he was only averaging 13 points in the 2011-2012 season. It's all of these are going to be tough to say who's better. Durant, I mean, he was averaging 28 points, but so was Malone. Malone was more in the prime of his career. Durant was only 23. He would only get better. LeBron was not much older than that as well. So they would have their youth and their legs, but the savviness of the veterans over on the forward side for the 92 team is just amazing. You also have Chris Mullin, who may be one of the best pure shooters in NBA history. He's often forgotten by a lot of people in history. But he was an amazing player, averaged 26 points, 91-92 for the Warriors. So he definitely could put it in. So let me ask each one, Ian's 92 or 2012. Brett, who you
Start it
taking?
off. All right.
Just
If
for
I
the
had to-
forwards.
if I had to give an edge, it's going to have to go to the 1992 team for sure, just because of, like Brian said, the depth that team had at that position. When you're looking at those players there, they have a couple weak links, but overall, it is a solid team that you'd be hard pressed to put together, even nowadays, with the way the NBA's changed. So I'm gonna have to go with 92 on that one.
92. Kevin?
Well, I want to point out when I said the double digits per game, I was going by just the international play at the Olympics, not their overall season, because I was focusing on the Olympic international play at that point. But I don't know, based on physicality, I would have to agree 92. But again, if 92 played in 2012, I think 2012 probably would take them, because the rules would change. Half of them would probably foul out within the first half. But if 2012 played back in 92, they would probably get manhandled by the 92 team. But overall, just physicality, size, points per game, players in the Hall of Fame, top 50 of all time, top 50 all scorers of all time, I have to go with 92.
And Brian?
yeah, I'm going to go with 92 also. I just look at the five main forwards there. I mean, you have a couple shooters in Mullen and Bird. You have, a defensive guy and Pippen, and then you've got a couple of just overall great scorers. Guys that can get to the net and Malone and Barkley. It just was a nice blend, and also just very high level stuff. The 2012 team didn't quite jive that same way. It was kind of a lot of the same type of players that really didn't have the same dynamics that the 1992 team had. So overall talent, overall just workability of the team in general, I got to go with 1992.
So that's 3 for 92, and I'm going to make it a 4 for 92 on the forwards. Like we said, I don't think any of those forwards from 2012 has ever seen a defender like Scottie Pippen. That doesn't exist in today's NBA. And gosh, there's nobody like Charles Barkley in 92 in today's NBA. I would think some players from today, would run away from him. He was that good. So I am giving my vote to 92 as well. So let's take it to the centers now. The 92 team, we got David Robinson, Patrick Ewing. The 2012 team, we got Tyson Chandler, Kevin Love. Brian, we'll let you start this one out. Who you got and why?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, first off, look at 2012. You got Tyson Chandler. he only averaged 10 and a half points. He was never an all-star the rest of his career after 2012. He just kind of faded after that. Love 18.3. Good, good presence, but yes, like you pointed out earlier, center wasn't really his natural position. He's more of a natural forward. That's really where he made money. So he was a little bit out of place in that spot. Then
He's
you
a
look
phenomenal player. So the fact that he
Oh.
can make the switch,
Oh, not without a doubt. Yeah. And then you look at 1992. I mean, just a beast in Patrick Ewing. He averaged 4 points that year. He was just a nightmare in the middle as far as blocks and try and get around Patrick Ewing. That ain't easy. And then you had David Robinson. He averaged 23.2 points, and he led the NBA in blocks. So he was just absolutely beast. Just the wingspan on those guys. You couldn't guard them. You couldn't go against them in the middle. It just I think it's just overwhelming for this one. I'm going to go towards 1992.
92. Okay. So I'm going to go next here on this one. I first want to say about the 2012 centers, through no fault of their own, they are both excellent players, but if it weren't for injuries, they wouldn't even be there. I believe, Brett, you mentioned Dwight Howard earlier. Let's
Yes.
not forget Blake Griffin.
Yep, that's true.
And Chris Bosh. Okay. Bosh was coming off titles with Miami. He would have been the perfect complement for LeBron. And D Wade, had D Wade not been injured down there on the guards, you put those three in there, this could all be a different story. But points wise, Brown is right. Robinson, Ewing, they're going to dominate in the points. The boards, rebounds, 92 season, 2012 season in the NBA, they actually, between the two of them on both sides, averaged 23. So I'm going to call that a push, but I'm going to go to the blocks. David Robinson and Patrick Ewing rounded up and down, but they were averaging 4 blocks, 3 blocks a game in the NBA. Chandler, 1 block. Kevin Love, 1 block. Granted, Love wasn't at center, so that didn't help his cause any. And even on the steals, you got David Robinson. I mean, he averaged 2 steals, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he was a center. Chandler and Love are only averaging 1. So I'm giving it to the 92 centers as well. Brett.
Yeah.
Is the size too much for the 2012 team on the centers from the 92?
I just think so. To me, and I think Brian hit on this too. To me, actually, I agree that this was probably my easiest one to pick, just because I'll admit I'm not the world's largest basketball fan, but I definitely watched it a lot growing up. And David Robinson and Patrick Ewing were basically my time. Like, that's who I watched, and watching them play. And again, no fault of their own, Tyson Chandler and Kevin Love, but they don't, in my book, they don't even compare to, Patrick Ewing and David Robinson at all. Not to be mean, but yeah, they shouldn't even really share the court when it comes to talking about who could really dominate, my opinion.
I agree. Robinson or Ewing are Hall of Famers. Love will probably get in. I don't see Tyson Chandler getting into the Hall of Fame.
No.
I've seen his stats. I think he has maybe 1 All-Star game, if I'm correct on that.
I think he has 3, but yeah,
3?
that was the end of it for him though. 2012. That was it for him.
Right. And I know he's still hanging on to 37 now, but yeah. Kevin, how about you? What do you got on this one?
You guys already touched base on their career stats. They kind of speak for themselves. But if you switch over to the international play stats, the 2012 team, their shot percentage was better between the 2 centers over the 92 team. They averaged more rebounds. Where Patrick Ewing and David Robinson, they averaged about 4.6. Love and Chandler were closer to about 5.5. 2012 team, points per game. Points per game, actually, Ewing and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson, they averaged more by just a little bit. But we also got to look at the fact that the 92 team in the international play only faced 17 NBA players total, whereas the 2012 team, they faced 39 NBA players total. So it was completely more of an all-star team for the other countries in the 2012, Olympics compared to the 92 Olympics. 92 team basically didn't really face anybody. So, I mean, it's harder to judge on this one based on, I mean, the NBA stats, I mean, they are what they are. The international play, I feel like the 2012 team was better. But again, you go back to size and physicality, the 92 team outweighed and outmatched height of the 2012 team. And so I would have to side with the 2012 team, or I'm sorry, the 92 team.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the guards.
Where it gets interesting.
Yes. And Brett, I'm going to come to you first on this. And my question for you is, does Kobe Bryant negate Michael Jordan?
Woo.
Are they a
Yes.
wash? Are they a wash?
Gotta ask me the tough question. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say MJ, his airness. It's a close match again. Kobe, the late Kobe, rest in peace, sir. Definitely got to mention that. It's a close match, but in a one-on-one game, I'm giving Jordan 6 out of 10 wins. I'm giving him the slight edge just because I think, again, growing up in the time that he did, or playing in the time that he did, gives him that edge. Whereas Kobe has some of the skills that Jordan might struggle with a little bit, but I'm going with Jordan on a slight edge. Now this. I'd like to hear what anybody else might have to say on this, of whether they think that might be a washout.
Well, I'm going to agree with you on your analysis, except I'm giving Jordan 7 games. And for this reason, Jordan comes in at, I believe, 29 years old. Kobe is 34. This isn't 29-year-old Kobe. This is MJ in his prime. This is pre-baseball. I mean, some will debate that he was better when he came back from baseball, but regardless.
Not for the Wizards.
Regardless, I would take Jordan over Kobe.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. Brian, who's got the depth?
Okay, we have to take a look at the roster. You have Jordan and Drexler, Magic, and Stockton for the 92 team. And then for the 2012 team, you have Harden, Kobe, Westbrook, Paul, and Darren Williams.
Thank you for that. I did mean to say that, but first show kinks, so we're going along as we can. Appreciate that.
All good, yeah. So I mean, there's an extra player there for 2012, so that affects things some. But yeah, I mean, Jordan, he was the leader, the scoring leader that year, 31.5 points. That still wasn't his best season ever, but it was still right there in his prime, right in the strike zone. I think I think he's better than anybody I see on the other side, for sure. Clyde Drexler, 25 points a game at that point. That was right before he joined up with Hakeem Olajuwon and won it all with the Rockets. So he was still a Blazer then. So he was carrying that team in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
That you had Magic Johnson, who he didn't play the season before because of the HIV thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did come back in 95 and 96 and still averaged about 14 points. So I took just to get an idea of where he may have been in 92. I took his 91 points per game and his 95, 96 points per game, averaged them out, and it would average out to 17. So that's still pretty solid. And then you had John Stockton, and he led the NBA in assists and steals. So that's pretty deep on that side if you think about it. I mean, you get everything that Jordan could do. Drexler was able to carry a team himself, and then you have two of the very best passers that ever played the game, in Magic Johnson and John Stockton. So that's pretty deep. On the other side, Harden, his game is still kind of limited now, but it was really limited then. He's a great scorer, but he doesn't really have a whole lot else to his game.
He was only averaging 17 in the NBA. I think it was maybe 22.
He had 25.9 that season. So he was coming into his own at that point in time. But at the same time, it was, just looking at his overall game, it wasn't real developed yet. The same could be said for Westbrook. Paul was, he was the leader in steals that year. And Darren Williams was kind of short-lived, short shelf life for his dominance. But so yeah, on this one here, I'm going to go with 1992 as well. I just think that their depth and the types of players that they had is a good mix. And the overall talent is a lot better.
And I think on the depth, I would go with the 2012 team here. You did mention Deron Williams. He was at or near his peak at that point in time. Kobe, even though he was 34, still putting up monster numbers on the Lakers. Harden was just coming into his own. Chris Paul, I got to put him up there right with Stockton, to be honest. His passing ability was outstanding. I know he was averaging 9 assists, I believe, somewhere in that ballpark. Very good player. And then Westbrook, granted, he was still, I think he was 23 at the time, but he was averaging well over 20, getting the assists. He even has pretty good rebounds for a guard. I gotta give him credit for that one. Of course, Drexler dominated on the boards too on the 92 team. But if I'm willing, I'm pretty close to giving. I do give Jordan the edge over Bryant, but I could call it a wash. I could see myself doing that. So then that would leave me with what's left. And I just don't think that Magic at that point in his career, especially not even playing the year before, was really much of a threat to anybody on that 2012 team. So I'm giving that depth to the 2012 team. Kevin, let's go to you, and let's bring that Jordan, Kobe, Bryant argument back, because that's one of the best arguments you're going to get in basketball.
Yeah.
Other than Jordan, LeBron, but we're doing guards. So
Yep. I agree. As far as depth, I would give that to the 2012 team also, with Harden and Westbrook behind Kobe. But if we're looking just strictly at Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who two of the biggest names in basketball, you match them up next to each other, and stats wise, they're close, but I have to give the edge to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan played less seasons than Kobe Bryant, five less seasons, but he won more championships. Made playoffs 13 out of the 15 seasons they played in. Made 14 All-Star games. Kobe made 18 though, so Kobe got more All-Star games than him. But Jordan's won more season MVPs, more final MVPs. They both basically made All-NBA team about the same. Kobe Bryant edged them by 1. And then for the NBA first team, and that is all NBA teams, Kobe Bryant edged them 15-11. Michael Jordan got Defensive Player of the Year award. Kobe Bryant didn't. Michael Jordan, I feel, was a better two-way player. I think he played defense a little bit better than Kobe Bryant. Jordan won 10 scoring leader titles. Kobe Bryant won 2. Michael Jordan led in steals 3 seasons. Kobe Bryant didn't. Michael Jordan won Rookie of the Year. Kobe Bryant didn't in their rookie season. Points per game, Michael Jordan had more. Rebounds per game, Jordan had more. Assists per game, Jordan had more. Steals per game, blocks per game, Jordan had more. And even though Jordan played 5 less seasons, he only scored about 1,400 points less than Kobe Bryant total for his whole career. He could put that up in one season. And he played 5 less seasons. Rebounds, he was only 400 behind Kobe Bryant. Total stats, season stats, 700 less assists, had more steals, had more blocks total. And and he only played in total about 250-ish less games. And if Jordan would have had the same amount of games, I think he would have destroyed Kobe Bryant in every single category. I think he was a better all-around player, both sides of the ball. He made clutch shots. I feel more than Kobe Bryant has, though. Kobe Bryant, he did put up an 80-point game. I don't think Michael Jordan ever did that.
Count as 60-point games, and then let's see who's leading.
Actually, Kobe Bryant, if I'm not mistaken, had more 60-point games than LeBron and Jordan combined, if I remember correctly from what I read.
Helps when you don't pass the ball.
True.
I knew somebody was going to say it.
Yeah.
True. But Kobe Bryant didn't really have as good of a team as Jordan did to pass the ball. Yeah, he had Shaquille O'Neal and he had Gasol for a little bit and Odom, but let's be honest.
Meta World Peace. Let's not forget Meta World Peace.
Yeah.
Rick Fox.
Stands in a
Rick
game.
Fox. When he's not jumping to the stands, he could pass it to him. And that actually happened when he was in Indiana, not LA. So
You're right. So yeah, I gotta give
All
it to Michael Jordan just because of the overall stats, and he played less games and beat Kobe Bryant in more categories.
All right, let's keep it short. Brett, guards overall, 12 or 92?
Believe it or not, I can't believe I'm going against my man MJ. But for just the overall, what I think is depth for the 2012 team, looking at some of the players there that they were in their peak, and we talked about Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul early in his career kind of got the short end of the stick being with the Hornets and not really having anybody built around him, yet he was still putting up those assists and steal numbers that he was. But, overall short. And I'm going to have to go with the 2012 team in this category overall.
I'm taking 2012 as well, pretty much for all the reasons you mentioned. Brian, who are you taking?
I'm going to stick with 92, but it's definitely close. It's, it really could be a toss up. Like I said, you have to factor in the fact that the 2012 team had an extra player in the guards category. So that kind of throws things a little bit. But yeah, I still would take the four guards that were on the 92 team over the five that were on the 2012 team.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with 2012 due to depth. If Michael Jordan went down in 92, I don't think Clyde Drexler could have filled his shoes. Westbrook and Harden, I think, could have definitely picked up for Kobe Bryant.
One word answer from each of you. If Dwayne Wade and or Derrick Rose are healthy, which guard are they replacing on the 2012 team? Kevin?
I would take I'd take away Harden.
Harden. Brett?
Looking at the team, I guess it's saying, if they're healthy, I'm taking Derrick Rose over Westbrook, and I'd take Dwayne Wade to take out Darren Williams.
Brian?
Yeah, same deal. I'm taking Darren Williams out. He's the weak link on this team.
I'm taking Harden out, putting Wade in, and the Rose, Deron Williams is tough. Could go either way on that. I mean, I think people forget how good Rose was back then before all his injuries. They see him now. He's kind of a shell of the player he used to be. But it's nice to see 2012 win a section. And here I thought it was going to be straight 92. So that's great. All right, let's move on to the final section of the players, which is going to be our college player representatives for each team. That was Christian Laettner for the 92 team. Just finished his final year at Duke. And on the 2012 team, we got freshman here from Kentucky, Anthony Davis. All right, so we got one guy who's fresh out of college, and we got one guy who really just has started his college experience. So we're taking them at that point in their careers, not what they've done since. Brian, who do you like?
I mean, it kind of, even though I don't really like Leitner too much as far as we kind of saw what he was all about. I mean, he peaked out that year in '92 in Duke. I mean, his crowning moment was making that game-winning shot against
Yeah.
Kentucky, and it was pretty much all downhill from him after that. He was the third or fourth guy taken in the draft, and he just never materialized, never really found the magic again. But he almost has to win by default in this, just because at this point in time, Davis was a freshman. I mean, he was so he was so raw at that point in time. I mean, you saw the talent, and obviously he has the size and everything, but his skills were just so raw. He was not the polished player that he has become today. So I got to go advantage Leitner, even though it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth.
Kevin, who you taking?
Yeah, actually, I agree with everything that Brian said on that, because you took out what they've done since. Obviously, if you keep what they've done since, Latner is shot like completely out of this picture. Like, Anthony Davis had a way better career, obviously. But
Christian Leitner gets no respect. Everybody hates him. I'm
it's not that I hate him.
I'm not a huge Duke fan, but he gets no respect. He did make the All-Star game in the NBA at
One time.
One time, okay. He put up 18 points in his rookie year over there in I think Atlanta. I think he went to his first year, or I don't even remember. No, I'm sorry, T-Wolves. Whatever. The point is, he gets no respect. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I mean, Brian pretty much hit it on the head. I don't have anything else to add, because based on that, I mean, a freshman basically. I mean, it's kind of equivalent to LeBron coming out of high school and playing, but the only difference is LeBron had skill. LeBron was good. Anthony Davis was a freshman and just getting started, and it's kind of hard to compare, him to Latner. And you're right, he hit that game-winning shot, Kentucky, and that's pretty much what boosted his aura, or whatever you want to call it, and got his name out there. And he did have a good career in Duke, but he fizzled almost immediately.
Brett, let me. I'm gonna ask you two questions. So just give me one word answer on this first question: Leitner or Davis?
Leitner or
Brett.
Yeah,
I'm
Leitner.
asking Brett.
Believe it or not, I'm gonna go with Davis on this one. I've never been a Leitner fan.
Oh, well, you know what? Because of that, I'm gonna let you make your argument. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I mean, you can't judge a player by, making one big shot. And again, I know we're not looking at their overall career, but it has to go, and you have to take a peek a little bit and look at it and see that what Leitner play. I mean, 12, 13 seasons in the NBA, and he made one All-Star game early on. I mean, the guy, and I know we're talking about college and everything, and he was a decent college player.
College Hall of Famer, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, how could you not making that big shot? They have to put you in, right? It'd be sacrilegious if they didn't, especially for Duke. But again, you look at some of their stats. I mean, in college, just the games that they played in college, Leitner only had like 1 point more per game. Davis out-rebounded Leitner overall in their college statistics. And again, they played close to the same amount of games. You look at Anthony Davis had more assists per game in his college career. So again, I'm just throwing the argument out there that as a college player, I think I'm going to go with Davis. I think he has more, how should I say, he has more area to be useful to a team than just Leitner does.
But the host said at that point in their career, that's me and Brian King agree. I'm pretty sure we agree with you on Davis. We would take Davis in a heartbeat. But based on what the host said, was at that exact point of their career, who would you take? You don't know any of that stuff about Davis at that point in his career. So
right. I mean, Davis was 19 years old at that point, right? I mean,
right.
Right.
And Leitner was like 22, 23.
Right.
So do you still take Davis at that point of their careers, not knowing his stuff?
Leitner had already had 4 years under Coach K to develop.
Right.
Davis he only had one season in Kentucky to develop.
I'm still going with Davis because I think forming a team around, he gives me more area to use use him in. I can't find my words right now, but he gives me a better player that I can kind of mold into a team that I want. Whereas honestly, I feel like I could find 5 Leitners throughout college at that point.
Brett, since you're the only one that picked Davis, give me a 1-minute answer on this because we want to try and keep these at an hour here.
Yeah.
So, since you're the one that picked Davis, do you take Shaquille O'Neal over Christian Laettner coming out of college to make that team? Because that was a big debate at the time that they didn't take Shaq because he had been eliminated early in the tournament. Laettner went all the way through the tournament, and that's why some feel that he got the pick over Shaq. What do you think?
Can I give you like a 2-second answer?
Go ahead.
I take Shaq immediately. I mean, he went straight to my Orlando Magic, and watching him play, and I knew right away him coming out of college he was going to be a superstar. And again, looking at Laettner, even him making that big shot, I never thought in my mind, oh, this guy's going to be a NBA Hall of Famer. Never did. Again, maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe it's because I don't like Duke. I'm a North Carolina because my mom was a North Carolina fan. That could be a little bit of bias there, but I mean, overall, I saw more in Shaq, I could see more in Davis than Laettner.
And I don't even have to make my argument. Everybody knows who I'm taking. So
Let me say something on this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking about building a team here, all right, and it comes down between Christian Laettner and Shaq, and yes, maybe Shaq better, when he came out of college, but where are you going to put Shaq? You've already got and Ewing as your centers. I mean, Shaq's not going to play. Period.
Yeah.
With Laettner, you've got him as another forward. You've got older forwards on your team. Guys that maybe you're going to be winded, towards the end of the game or something. So Laettner made a little bit more sense, just as far as like the team building aspect of it. I just can't see putting Shaq in there in any spot. It just didn't fit. Even though Shaq was probably the better player.
Okay.
I could see that.
Well, let's move on to our final debate section before we all give our last hurrah to see who we're going to choose. Competition level of the teams played. So the 92 team played Angola, Germany, Brazil, Spain, Puerto Rico, Lithuania, Croatia twice. One of them being the gold medal games. And I believe I listed that earlier as well. The teams that 2012 played France, Tunisia, Nigeria, Lithuania, Argentina, Australia, Argentina again, and Spain in the gold medal games. So let's see, Kevin, I don't think we've gone to you first in a while. Who had the better competition?
Hands down 2012, and I already touched base on this a little bit earlier, where I mentioned that the 92 team only faced 17 other NBA players. They also had 3 former NBA players that they played against also, whereas 2012 team, they faced 39 NBA players and then 18 former NBA players. The other teams were better skilled in the 2012 Olympics. So, I mean, the competition was definitely better in 2012. I know the 92 team, they didn't even have to use one single timeout in the 92 Olympics, not one single timeout. The biggest deficit that they had was 4-0 on them to start the game. And then after that, they put up over 100 points in every single game in 92, which they did not do in 2012. And I don't think it's because of lack of skill. I think it's because the other teams were better. So hands down, I mean, 2012 definitely had better matchups against them than the 92 team.
Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree that 2012 had the better competition. I am going to say that, when they got to the finals, the 92 team had to play Croatia, and I mean, you still had Drazen Petrovic and you had Tony Kukoc on that team, and they were all stars at that point, so they weren't complete scrubs or anything, and the 92 team, still beat them by about 15 points or so. So, I mean, yes, the competition was a little bit better for 2012, but then you look on the other side, the 2012 team struggled with some teams. I mean, they struggled with Lithuania, only beat them by 5. they had that game earlier. I forget the team forget the opponent off the top of my head now, but they Coach K actually had to bench all the starters, and all the backups came in the
Right.
second half. Because I mean, they had started down 8-0, and they were losing at halftime, and then they Coach K makes that dramatic change. So whereas the competition was a little bit better with 2012. Don't think it's like you can take it at face value, the point differences for sure, the point differentials, because the 2012 team wasn't as good, and they didn't always focus either. I mean, I remember there was that article out that was about how the 2012 team they skipped practices, and they weren't taking things seriously there any earlier rounds. So it's not just the competition. I mean, anybody can beat you, anybody can give you trouble if you're not focused, and so I think that plays a part in the equation as well.
I'm going to give the competition to the 2012 team as well. I'll throw this stat out here. The 92 team average win was 44 points. That was their average wins in the Olympics, 44 points. They won every game by at least 30 points. That tells me a lot about the competition they were playing. Now, there were some NBA players. You mentioned Kukoc, Petrovic. Detlef Schrempf was on the Germany team. I mean, that guy was a first rounder. He's a 3-time All-Star in the NBA, 2-time Sixth Man of the Year award winner. Great player, but there wasn't much other than that. Sabonis played on, I want to say, Lithuania. Other than that, there weren't any names that really, struck you out on those 92 rosters. Australia had Luke Longley, but they didn't even play Australia in 92. And Longley was just really an average center. He got a lot of titles with the Bulls, of course. And then when I flip over and I look at the 2012 team, I mean, France has got Tony Parker. He's a Hall of Famer. Boris Diaw, great player. Argentina's got Ginobili. Who else we got?
Ginobili gave him fits too.
Exactly. And let's just look at Spain. You got the Gasol brothers. I mean, Sergei Ibaka, who has really been coming on in some past years there. So Jose Calderon is a pretty decent player as well. So I definitely got to give the edge, especially in that gold medal game. Spain really is, I think they had 7 NBA players on that team. They're fielding an NBA team. So I don't think the competition level is even close. The 2012 team had a really much harder challenge. And Kevin, I think I didn't come to you, right?
I was the first one to go.
You were the first one.
That's all right. I can make it simple. I mean, because you basically talked about some of the stats too that I knew about as far as like point differential and wins and things like that. But yeah, I agree with all you that just because of the amount of NBA players and really the level that the global Europe league and things like that had grown into compared to, the NBA back in the day was the NBA. There was just a ton of players from, USA. And I think that definitely 2012 had the tougher competition.
Okay. All right. So the competition goes to the 2012 team. So let's bring it up here. We're going to give each of you, let's say, try and keep it at a minute. Give your final analysis and who you would take. And I'll just review real quick. The forwards was a sweep for 92. The guards was 3-1 for the 2012 team. The centers was a sweep for 92. Leitner 3-1 over Davis. And then the competition was a sweep for the 2012 team. So Brian, who you got overall? Now that we've heard everything, who you picking as your winner?
I've got to go with 1992. I mean, Chuck Daly was just like the perfect head coach for that team. That was like, the vintage kind of basketball that was going on at that point in time. And then his team was just loaded. Like we said, he's got advantages at forward, huge advantage at center. I mean, at worst, the guards are a wash. So yeah, I just think the 1992 team is just completely stacked better. I think really, if you could sum it up in just one word, it would come down to physicality. And the 2012 team just doesn't have it. They were more built for speed, and that just wouldn't it just wouldn't work against this team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with 1992.
92. Kevin.
Based on the physicality, the size,
Stressful decision for you.
it is. I did like the 2012 team, the players on them, and I feel like if they played the 92 team in 2012, like I said earlier, I think they would take them. But then vice versa, I think 2012 would lose in 92. But based on the accolades, the awards, the number of NBA titles, MVPs, scoring titles, I mean, 92 team, All-Star games, they had over combined All-Star games, compared to, I think it was only 90 something for the 2012 team. I just feel like all around that the 92 team was better. Physical, they would have destroyed them. Height, they destroyed them. Size, they destroyed them. 2012 had the edge on speed, but I think that 92 too much for the 2012 team.
Okay. Brett.
I'll give you my reasons, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. But my reasons, I'm going to be taking the 1992 team. I mean, touching on Brian's point, the centers are it's just such an overwhelming advantage to the 92 team to me in that category. That's going to be hard to overcome for a team that builds off of speed. To have that type of size down center, to me, again, they can't get over it. MJ, Michael Jordan, that man could will a team to a win over anyone. Really, he could. And I felt that I wasn't even a Bulls fan. I was just a Jordan fan. So I would say that. And then, again, Kevin, I agree with you. You look at what you can't avoid. Again, I agree with your point, though, too. 92 team in 2012 might struggle more, but the 2012 and 92, I think, is a clear win for me in 92. I definitely like that point you brought up. But again, you look, the 92 team, 11 Hall of Famers. 11. I mean, that's
all but Leitner.
Yeah,
everyone but Leitner.
I mean, it's
I know.
And then the last point I'll make is I got to go to the 96 Olympics, and I got to watch half of these guys who came back for the 1996 Dream Team play. And again, there were some different key players in key positions, like Shaquille O'Neal was a center for the 96 team, things like that. But watching them play and still watching their dominance in 1996 just cements for me, again, 1992. So I'm going with.
So it is a tougher decision than what some people out there would probably think. But I remind myself that the name of the show is Legacy Battle. So legacy, if I'm thinking legacy and not who would win in a one-on-one game, the 92 team has the legacy of being the team that started it all. And that has been going on for 20, oh my goodness, has it been 30 years? Wow. Almost 30 years. And people still talk today as that being the greatest basketball team ever assembled. So from a pure legacy standpoint, their legacy is greater than probably any basketball team there's ever been. I can't think of any other team that gets talked about as much as that, especially on the international level. You brought up the Hall of Famer point. 11 Hall of Famers from the 92 team. You look at the 2012 team, I mean, Durant, James, Anthony, Westbrook, Kobe, Harden, Chris Paul, probably Kevin Love. They're all going to the Hall of Fame. Deron Williams may or may not get in. Anthony Davis is on his way. He's got a long road to go still, but Iguodala is probably not getting in. And Tyson Chandler's not getting in. I couldn't imagine that happening. So just from a legacy standpoint, and I'll make my final words this. There was one man who was part of both teams. That's Coach K. Coach K said in an interview with Bloomberg that no one is better than the 92 Dream Team. If it's good enough for Coach K, good enough for me. Clean sweep for the 92 team and a win in the first Legacy Battle podcast. So good show, guys. I appreciate it. Just want to announce that next month, we're going to try and have our second podcast on June 18th. It's another Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Being Father's Day, we are going to do the best father-sons duo in sports history. See if we can come to an agreement on that one. And it's opened up to all sports, not just the 4 major sports. I just want to remind you all, join the Facebook group, invite your friends. You can get them in, share the podcast. We'd love to get it out there. And hey, if you're interested in sponsoring, we'll definitely take your money and put some signs up or whatever else we need to do for, a future show or whatever. So thank you for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
All right, take care.
Good night, guys.